Okay, so our next talk is from Jose Miguel, and yeah, we'll leave him to it.
Well, this is really nice to be here and have the opportunity to share our recent work with you. Then I have realized that I'm very bad at picking titles. It's very long, and even myself it's difficult to read all, developing basic building blocks and so on. So I have highlighted automated data processing and basic building blocks. And indeed, I will start the other way around. So I will start talking a little bit about the work we have been doing in our facility about related to automation. And then in this process, I will also highlight some points where I feel we need to kind of review how we're developing software nowadays in cryo-EM and some steps we have been working on as well. So I'm part of the cryo-EM facility at SciLife Lab. Our center is here, and then it's kind of a national institute or organization that hosts different facilities. And it's a consortium between 4 of the main universities in Sweden: Stockholm University, Karolinska, KTH, and Uppsala. And it's really a nice, there is a way to pass with the pointer? Or? It's really nice environment, I think, because we have the facilities. All these are my colleagues, Gunnar Bonheim, Marta, and other people. But still, there are also research labs. So we are in between some needs that we need to focus a lot in automation and give a good service to users, external users to the facility. But also we have like internal users that are together, and then it's really nice to see other problems and different research ideas and situations. So I have the chance to continue working in Scipion. There is a project I have been working before moving to Sweden in Spain. If I had only one slide to define Scipion, I will use probably this. I always tell about the EM Babel Tower. So we have many different software packages, but it seems that they don't talk the same language. So it's very difficult to interact from one to another. And then in some case, if you are lucky, you will have something like this. So you have some scripts where you can convert from one package to another, but then it's a responsibility of the users. I think as developer, we should take more of this and try to make all the process more smooth. Also, if we want to define it in a more modern way, we can say like Scipion will be something like this that will enable to integrate different software, and then the issue we have is this, like we have a UK connector, EU, Japan, and so on. So if I have a second slide, then I can comment a little bit more. Okay, we have tried to build a really nice interface that is based on a very well-defined data model. Based on this data model, we generate automatically a graphical interface. So it means if you add a new program or a new protocol, we don't need to develop all the GUI related to that. We have some wizards. And then we have been focused on very few specific goals. Try to integrate all the software. This is the main thing we are trying to achieve. Also, reproducibility is very important for us, that I think is a little bit overlooked and it's not taken care properly. Also, automation, and we are not the only one. You have seen many projects. And then, well, trying to make it easy to install. And finally, extensibility is very important for us. So, in the last time, we have been working mainly in streaming mode or on the fly data processing. So we start calling this idea Scipion box, because we say, okay, we want to reduce the computational needs. So it's a box with a few GPUs. And then it becomes confusing the people because they say, oh, you have Scipion box, there are 2 different things. Or actually, we are not really good with name. We could try more catchy names like Trans-Scipion or Scipionit.py. But we say, no, just keep it as Scipion. And what we did is, okay, let's modify how the processing is done. So before we have all the framework, and you started one job, you have the input, until this job doesn't finish, you don't get the output back. And then, well, you can concatenate new steps and the things go on. And now we say, okay, if you have the data stream coming, we will say like open set. So you start putting images in your open set, and then the process can start. So after you import movies, we can fire movie alignment, and again here, you have all the flexibility. So you can use Motion Core, now Relion, or any software you have. So we didn't want to give up with one of the, in our opinion, best thing of the framework. That is the flexibility and all the possibilities that you have for any of the steps. So you can go with movie alignment. The first version of this streaming and on-the-fly data processing was until here, until CTF estimation. And then we also added some monitors that were protocols or meta protocols that were not really computing. They were checking how the other protocols were going. And then you can generate HTML reports, seeing how things are going, or just analyzing your data. Or we make even a more complex one that was interacting with IcePipe in Diamond and was feeding the system that they had already in place. After this first version, we were focusing again also in particle picking and 2D classification, trying to get this in streaming as well. So here I will explain a little bit more. For particle picking, again, we try to say, okay, let's try to make it general, try to decouple what is all this logic of the streaming thing from the logic of the picking, because we don't want to repeat the same code. And so we say, okay, for picking, what we change or we add to the protocols was a kind of a check. Let's see if there are new items that are coming that need to be processed. And this is on one side, and then on the other side, we check another process for item that has been processing, and then update the output. So this is a kind of the logic. But then we separated this. On the other side, we say, okay, one of these boxes here, pick micrograph. Now we need to say this, we need to implement it in em-pyqt or Reliant, but then all the other infrastructure is the same. So it means that now you need to add a new particle picker. You don't need to re-implement everything. So you only need to focus on one of these boxes. Now, for example, in the facility, we're doing this routinely using mainly em-pyqt with supervised or automatic picking, or in some case Reliant as well. But now we are trying cryo, and that was relatively easy. We need to kind of generate the input format just for one box here, and then launch the job and get the coordinates. And it becomes in streaming by default. Similarly, we do it with the 2D classification. So we say, okay, still keeping the idea of the box or trying to reduce the computational need to get the balance between automation and reducing the computational resources, we start working on something we call 2D streamer. So it's another meta protocol that is not computing. It takes the input of particles that can be open and getting new items, and then you can define in this streamer the batch size. So you can say, okay, every 50,000 particles, I want you to schedule a new 2D classification job. And again here, we didn't hard code any 2D classification. You can say, okay, this is the template of the 2D classification job. In practice, nowadays we use Reliant mostly for the 2D classification, but it can be open if you have em-pyqt classification or now in Spire. So you can grab any job you want with the settings that it has, and this streamer will repeat these jobs many times for you. So the next step will be selecting good classes and particles. Now, in the current implementation, people there in the facility is doing this manually, and then kind of in a supervised way, we are pushing to initial volume and some refinement as well, but we are working also on selecting these classes automatically. So if we were trying some deep learning stuff, but even with some supervision. So imagine that you launch a job for this template, and then from this output, you select what you think are the good classes. With very basic cross-correlation or reference base, we can, from all these jobs, based on the ones that you say that are good, then we can make this and make it even more automated. So if we want to push the streaming as well, okay, now it's nice to have a box where you can do certain part of the pipeline and the processing, but then at the same time we also want to have flexibility and then make easy to extend and use other resources. So one of the issues in cryo-EM is that we have very heterogeneous computational needs. So in some points you need better workstation with a display and a graphical card and do your picking or even 2D classification, but then when you go to the later steps, then probably you need more CPU or more RAM or a very fast disk to do all this computation. Now, all of this is kind of manual, so you need to copy some of your data there, launch some job, then bring the data back. So another thing we are working right now is still ongoing work, is trying to do this job distribution more smoothly and more automatic. So, for example, let's take this, you have a workstation and you have your project there. The idea here will be to try to centralize this. So this workstation will be like your command center where you start distributing the jobs. And then we have this job. Internally, this job is split in 3 steps. The first one is converting the input as in Reliant format. Then you launch the Reliant job and you create the output. What we are trying to do is, okay, let's try to figure out, since we have the data model, so we know that these are input particles, and we know the particles probably are many stacks, and then you have some alignment information. So what are the files related to that? And then what we want is that this automatically, you can configure some external resources, and it will transfer the files that you need for your job. But the thing here, or the beauty will be, like, neither the user need to do this manually, neither the developer when developing this job. Like, you focus on how your either 3D refinement or 2D classification job is done, and then we will try, at least for most of the cases, that the framework will infer the files that need to be copied there. You launch the job remotely, and then you need to have some configuration how the main windows will deal with this job, and you will get your result back. And then I think this could be really nice if you think like in cloud service where you can like launch job, and then still you want to minimize the data that you want to copy back, because you will not want to pay more, right? So you launch a job and try to minimize the data transfer as well. So Cypion has been used in some facilities around Europe, also in the US. We have been working, and I think now it's becoming more distributed, the development. So originally the project started in Spain, in Madrid. Now I'm in SciLife Lab in Sweden. We have also been collaborating with people in Diamond, and also some developers moved to McGill, also in Helsinki. So this is also a challenge from the software development point of view, because now it's more difficult to synchronize. So in the previous version, we have only a single repository. All the code of the plugins were there. And now we are moving to Cypion version 2, where we call this a pluginization. So it means that we have separated each of these plugins, and now will be much easier to attack the problem. So divide and conquer, right? That we now can make releases of every plugin more separately. So one of the issues that also I'm trying to tackle is that we have designed Cypion to be independent, but at the end of the day, we need to compare images, we need to deal with tables and metadata in cryo-EM, and then we took a shortcut. The shortcut was, okay, let's rely now on em-pyqt libraries. And then em-pyqt, okay, it's a package, have a new development and research, but then the complexity has grown, and then this makes a little bit difficult to install Cypion. And then what we are trying to do is also try to extract this basic image and metadata handling, and then try to put it into a library with a better design and more thinking into for developers as well. This seems to be made crazy, and then trying to bring all people together, but in other fields it has been happening. So you have Python, and has grown as a scientific platform, and you see NumPy, and people don't write a new matrix in Python, so you will go for NumPy, and you have a lot of optimization. So there is no way you want to reinvent the wheel. So this is kind of my dream with this library. I want to start small, but my goal would be like we should try to put there some common knowledge and core, and can be reused. This will take a while, or I don't know if it will happen, but at least in Cypion, I will try to simplify things and make it more easy to distribute through a normal Python package or Anaconda, and I think it will go in that way. So I don't want to enter too much into details, but from the very beginning it will be important to, it has been quite hard to think a little bit in the design, to make modular components and different layers, and try to isolate the different dependencies. Together with this EM core library, I have also been working with a colleague, Pedro Hernandez, in visualization tools. So we are dealing with images, and we need to, and you may think, okay, this is nothing new. You will have EMA and em-pyqt, or even Relion have some GUI. But I mean, so you need a separate thing that if you want to easily visualize data, I think we don't have it yet. You need to install a whole package for doing that. So you can see volume slice. Here is a browser, and you clearly see here, you can see a metadata star file, or just picking particles. And then we are not doing this from scratch as well. We are reusing em-pyqt graph, that is a library for neuroscience images, and em-pyqt and em core. So just summarizing, automation is very important. I think we are making a lot of steps and progress in the field, but still there is a room for much improvement. And I think for not only for automation, but in general, we should put a bit more effort and try to join forces in trying to make a code more stable and well documented. Most of EM packages, unfortunately, the code is not that easy even for people in the same lab to kind of read the code, and so imagine for other people. And in science, we have people coming and going from the lab, so I think it's important that we should care a bit more about this and try to let something more robust for next generation, for even for current generations. And with that, I would be happy to. No, sorry, last slide, acknowledgement. So I'm very thankful to all my colleagues in Madrid that we still are in collaboration in the I2P Center in Innsbruck. Also the guys in Diamond, and the guys in McGill, also colleagues from MRC that are here, Grigory that has been very supportive for SCIPIEN project, Joaquin Oton, better known as Kino, is also in the audience. With the library has been helping me a lot, and also to my new colleagues in cryo-EM in the facility, Marta Carroni that has been quite enthusiastic and supporting, and also Juha Huskonen and Brahid in High Life in Helsinki. Then now I'm ready for the question if you have.
Any questions?
Jose Miguel, how much work will it be to kind of rip out the XMIP data model, which kind of now inside SCIPIEN, and replace it by your EM core library?
Well, there are kind of different levels to replace this dependency, because we have points of image I/O and metadata I/O. That I have most of the code there, but also there are all the visualizations. And the nice thing is how it is structured now. The code is like it can be done in different kind of steps, right? We could replace kind of this core part first, and then later, or at the same time, you can define new viewers. So I think the new viewers that are still more under development, also that are kind of stable now, can be also tested and integrated. Yeah, I don't know a time or so. This is also something that will require some coordination between the different development groups, and we need to draw on a strategic and maybe have one in place. A good thing with this new version, for example, apart from this separation, is that it will not disrupt the user. So even if we are separated in plugins, there is no data migration, so everything is the same and compatible with the previous version. So it's more thinking in the next step for development, and also thinking in more distributed project rather than centralized one.
Okay, maybe while George sets up, we can have one more.
So process management is pretty complicated when you talk about a distributed system. How do you plan to do that? Currently SCIPIEN is one box, maybe two box system.
Yeah, so right now, even so this one, what I'm trying to, the next step here will be like you have your project in one place, and then you'll be able to launch jobs in other places. Right now, SCIPIEN can be used in clusters, so it means still you have a front node and you can launch job. For that, what we have been trying to do is separate the configuration. So we don't want to infer things from the system because they can be very heterogeneous. So during the installation, the person in charge of the computational setup should define how you submit jobs, and then we rely on this configuration file, and then is what SCIPIEN will use this definition. So we don't try to guess how it's the system.
Okay, thanks very much.